Is it possible to hold a full-time job and paint? Well, yes, but it isn't easy. And all the tips and the tricks and the hacks only work if there's one thing there. And if this one single ingredient is absent, then all of those tips and tricks won't help. And I know because I've painted while working full-time, I've painted while being a house dad, I've painted while working part-time, and still I'm painting now, working full-time. And there's one thing that keeps me painting and has kept me painting. It's one single thing, and maybe I can help you cultivate, grow, and find that ingredient that will be a fuel to push you to paint regularly. Hi, my name is Jeff, and I've been painting in oils and watercolors for 35 years. And yes, I hold a full-time job. Welcome to my studio. Now, it's a big understatement to say that working full-time and then finding the time to paint is hard. I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day, and when you do the math, it doesn't look pretty. I mean, let's start with an example, and I imagine most people will have a similar schedule. Up around 6:30 a.m., work from 8 to 5, and then in bed between 10 and 10:30. This means that approximately there are 5 hours left in the day after work. Plenty of time to paint, right? No, just no. Because after having worked 8 hours dealing with customers and clients, answering to your boss and your coworkers, and generally giving your precious time and energy to a company that pays you for that time and energy, it's very tempting to get home, have a beer or a glass of wine, sit on the couch, and watch the latest episode of Severance or whatever your TV show is, favorite TV show is. Relax a bit, unwind, recharge. There's still plenty of time to paint tonight, right? Except there's dinner and dishes and laundry and walking the dog and maybe working out and social media, and now it's time for bed. No time to paint. Maybe tomorrow, mañana. Does this sound familiar? But wait, there's the weekend, 2 whole days. Nope. The weekend is the catch-all for everything else. That's for yard work or housework, for birthday parties and barbecues, the kids' soccer games, and grocery shopping. It's when everything is done because there wasn't enough time during the week to get it done. And when all that everything is finished, good luck finding an hour to paint, let alone with any type of energy or clarity. I'll get to paint on the weekend is a mind trap. And that's the wheel that everyone is on. Work, you then get things done that need getting done, consume, then Monday morning work again. And then there's no escape. The wheel keeps turning and turning. So what's the solution? Give up on painting? Well, no. There is a way to fit painting into your life. When I was 7 or 8, I had a friend, Robbie, who lived 2 doors down from me. The entire block of kids all played together. We'd walk into each other's houses unannounced most of the time, as if they were our own, and we'd play in each other's yards. The whole block was one big playground for us. And I remember one day I went over to Robbie's house and he was watching TV in the living room. And I was about to sit down and watch TV with him when I noticed something on the coffee table. It caught my eye. They were miniature paintings, probably 5x7 or 4x6. And I think that they were oils. The brushes were still there. A small set of paints beside it, as if somebody had been interrupted and had to leave their work. And I asked what this was, who was painting? And Robbie glanced over and he said, "Oh, that's my mom's." And when I said I didn't know that she painted, he said, "She used to paint a lot. She went to school for it, but she doesn't paint much anymore. She's a mom." At first glance, that story can be incredibly depressing, but I don't think that's why the memory stayed with me as long as it has. I mean, it's not like I played with Robbie recently. And I actually think the story is inspiring. Here was a very busy mom with 5 kids who still found a way to carve out some time to create. Bert Morisot, I think that's how you pronounce it. Bert Morisot was also a mom. And as a lady of society, she had obligations. She had a household to run, a child to bring up, but she also had societal obligations. She was expected to entertain, to put on lavish dinners, as well as attend events with her husband. And as a woman of society, she was required to present herself whenever someone of social standing called on the house. She was expected to drop everything and entertain the guest. So in a biography I read, it said she would paint in a back room with a smock over her clothes, over her dress. And if the maid came with a card to say that there was a caller, then she would put away her paints in a closet, take off the smock, smooth her dress, and go to greet the guest, probably muttering in French the entire way. The point is, we can find time to paint, even working 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. Now, here's a few tips I've discovered over the years that can help. But if you don't keep in mind that missing ingredient that I mentioned earlier, then it's like having a cool car with no gas. Keep your art supplies, number one, is keep your art supplies easily accessible, whether in a closet, in a kitchen cupboard, or under a coffee table. If your supplies are near at hand, then it's more likely you can pick them up when you have some time. And note that I said time, not inspiration. Don't ever wait for inspiration. Don't. If you have the time to paint, then really you have to paint. Those art supplies you keep handy, they also have to be organized and ready to go. Brushes clean, pencils sharpened, paper or support primed, because I know how easy it is to waste time getting set up only to find out that you've run out of time. And running out of time is a genuine issue. You have to set yourself time limits. It doesn't do anybody any good to be in the groove and in flow and singing along and then realize it's 2 a.m. And you have to work tomorrow. And keep your job. Maybe if you're young, it's possible, but it's not healthy. Time limits are also important because you can tell yourself it's only an hour or it's only until 9. And that way, the only helps to get you started in the studio and painting or wherever you paint. My last tip is to get rid of distractions. If this means leaving your phone in another room, then do it. If it means locking the cat or the dog out of the room, then do it. If it means asking your partner to entertain the kids, or telling the kids to only enter if there's blood and breaks, then do it. Over the years, and probably because of my years, I've been able to simplify my life so there are minimal distractions. I mean, I don't have any pets anymore. My job rarely requires me to answer off hours. My plants aren't clamoring to be watered all the time. And my kids are adults and they know that if I'm in the studio when they call, that I'll get back to them. I realize this isn't feasible for everyone, but it is possible to think hard about ways to simplify and gradually cut down on distractions. I used to paint in the dining room while my kids played video games and I could listen, or they were down the basement or they were running around the house, always keeping an ear out, but I was still painting. Steven Pressfield wrote a book on creativity and he named a force that is anti-creative. And he termed the force resistance and described it as almost a mythical force that will try anything, stop at nothing to halt creativity. He felt resistance was real and it was out there and it was very, very good at stopping anything that smelled like a creative act. And if you look for resistance in your life, once you've named it, if you look for it, once you're aware of it, that's the first step to combating it. Picking up your phone to check the weather and later realizing half an hour has passed and you haven't started painting, that's resistance. And I'm sure upon review, you can find all types of scenarios in your own life. One of the best ways to counter resistance that I've found is to set a schedule. And I know schedules can seem rigid, but I think of a schedule as more of a framework or as a suggestion. For instance, when I get home from work, I spend half an hour drawing. Half an hour seems totally doable on most days. I can sit down and draw. It doesn't matter what I draw, as long as I draw. It can be a fork or a spoon from the kitchen, a tree outside my window, or my own left hand. It's the act that actually matters. And then at some point, I head up to the studio to paint. I know that I maybe only have an hour to paint, but at least I'll be painting. And I keep track of those hours in a notebook over there because it's important, because then you can see over time all the moments adding up. And those moments are really important because that's how you build a painting practice. So I basically clock in and I clock out of painting. All these tips won't help without that secret ingredient that I mentioned earlier, and that is the passion to paint. You have to want to paint. You have to love painting, the act of painting and creating. Otherwise, none of these suggestions work. It's the fuel, for painting is the fuel that pushes you, it drives you into the studio after a very long day at work, over and over and over again. Painting and the act of painting is itself the motivation, if you love it. Because if you keep it up, make it a part of your life, it stays with you throughout the day, and it eventually becomes a part of you. In the morning, while I'm driving to work, I'm thinking about the painting from the night before. Honestly, I am. And whenever I get a chance at work, I tend to think about the painting on my easel or maybe my next painting. This builds the momentum to get into the studio when I'm home, to try the things that I've been thinking about. And if you're thinking about painting and you're painting, then voila, you're a painter. Painting, or really any creative act, is a way to break from that grinding wheel. Work, chores, consume, then work over and over again. And last, don't be too hard on yourself. There are days, maybe weeks, when you won't be able to paint. And sometimes my work requires me to be out of town and to travel, and there's for sometimes a week at a time, and there's no chance of me painting. And that's okay. It's okay. Because I know that sooner or later I'll be able to get back into the studio, that stuff happens, that life happens. Thanks for stopping by. And remember, if you support the arts, then buy originals.